Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently on our way out of the Kerbal system with this particular contraption, and we need to, of course, bring this over to Duna. So our next goal here is going to probably be to get to the descending node, but let's do a quick check here to see what this encounter would look like. It's going to be awful, right? That's pretty awful. Yeah. So we're going to remove that then, and we're just going to hop over to the descending node, and we are planning to do a quick inclination change. It doesn't need to be much. That'll do the trick right there. 9.6 meters per second. So we'll align to that node, and that's going to take some time. Now you'll note that I've pinned open this fuel tank here. That's just so we can keep a bit of an eye on what we've got going on here. Although, hang on. Why is this fuel showing up like this? It must be counting all of these tanks in this amount of fuel here. But it looks like it's draining correctly. Yeah, that's draining quite correctly. Oh, we should probably open up our Communitron. That would help. So we'll get that opened up so that we can maintain contact here. And let's get turned. So we're going to physics warp as we turn our way through this. We've got 72 days to make this turn. I am deeply unconcerned. How's our power looking? Deeply unconcerned about that too. For the moment, anyway. So let's get ourselves over to the turn marker. Almost there now. It's slowing down for sure. We're very, very close to being on the turn marker now. However, the turn marker moved when we came out of physics warp. That's okay. I'm not terribly concerned about it. We're going to warp on forward here. Goodbye, Kerbal. What just happened? Something broke. Stop the warp. There we go. We are technically no longer in escape trajectory by a pretty wide margin. So we had this happen previously. I'm not terribly concerned about it, although it should not have happened, for sure. We're just going to... Where did we lose 100 meters per second from? I don't think we had an encounter with the moon. We were not supposed to have an encounter with the moon. But we'll just fix it. It's okay. That happens sometimes when you start up the warp. Things just dramatically change on you. And we changed Sphere of Influence a couple of times, and I'm not sure why. I don't think we should have. It'll probably repeat if we reload. Remember, we didn't actually change our orbit at all. So we could technically reload and see if we can see what happened. I kind of want to do that, actually. So if we load that save, that should be this quick save. All we did was we angled. So I'm not going to bother with angling here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to reload the quick save. I want to see what happened. So you can see here, we're in an escape trajectory. The moon is here. Minmus is here. And I'm going to create a maneuver like we did previously up over here. I'm not going to bother with actually putting in the 9.6 meters per second. I'm just going to create the maneuver for now. And we're going to warp to this maneuver just like we did before. Look at that. There was no encounter. It just changed. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll deal with it. So we're going to hop over here, and we're just going to bring this up. This is clearly a bug of some description. It's not supposed to have that kind of a change, but it's okay. So this is going to be about 200 meters per second this time. Well, we'll just have to deal with it. Okay, so we're just going to get turned here. That is very, very clearly a bug. I have no idea why it does that occasionally, and it does it in the base game, unmodified occasionally as well, although I don't think it's quite as extreme. The physics just gets a little bugged out sometimes in KSP. That's just life. So we're going to position ourselves for this correction burn, which we apparently have to take. We're approximately positioned for it, and let's warp on over. And let's see what happens here. If it does it again, actually, you know what? I'm going to reload this again. This is clearly a bug, but what I want to find out is it a problem with the auto warp? If we manually warp it, do we make it out of the system without any changes? So here we are again, and we're in escape trajectory, as we would expect. So let's manually warp here. This is 2x, or rather, this is 5x. This is 10x, 50x, 100x, 1000x, 10,000x. Yeah, it's an auto warp bug. We're able to manually warp without it changing. That's wild. Okay, so we're getting into the sphere of influence of the sun right now. So we should now be in the sun's sphere of influence. So I guess now we're going to set this up. Now that we're out of the Kerbal system. Oh, we're control locked. This is because this antenna isn't extended. And we can't actually extend it now, but I did extend it previously before we ran into the bug. Wait. We're in warp still. We should be able to extend it. I did previously extend it before the initial warp, but we can extend it. That's fine. So that looks good. No issue there. And we're just going to add a maneuver here. This is going to be that like 9.6 approximately. That's 10.0. That's a little much. Somewhere around right here. Cool. We'll lock to the node. And I'm going to quick save here in case we have any more issues, but I don't expect to. It only seems to have issues when we're on a exit trajectory, I've noticed. It doesn't seem to have that sort of an issue when we are in system flight. Even when we're encountering something. Well, encountering it can have changes. But it's much worse when we're exiting an encounter. That's definitely the case. So at this point, we shouldn't have an issue if we auto-warp, in theory, but we'll keep an eye on it. So let's see what's going to happen here. Yeah, no auto-warp issue. So that looks good. We're going to head on forward a few days here, get our inclination changed to just that tiny little bit. 9.7 meters per second isn't very significant, but we need to have some phasing time anyway, so we might as well do this. We probably don't need to do it. I'm going to physics warp as we align here. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20. 10. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Mark. Okay. Probably don't need to do too much more here. Let's see how good that is. It's good enough. So that'll be fine. We are now in plane with Duna, and the question is, where do we have to go to get an encounter? So burn time here is a little awkward for sure. Probably have to phase in orbit. Yeah, we got to phase in orbit. So we're going to phase one orbit here, and that's going to end up being about right here, but we need to change our velocity a little bit, which means our timing will need to change, and it'll end up being something more akin to... Okay, that's really, really close. Okay, that's an encounter there. The question is, what is the encounter? Well, that could definitely be dialed in. We're going to want to bring this into low orbit, ideally. So we dial this in very, very significantly. Ooh, that was too much. Little bit more. I'm just targeting around 50 kilometers. Inclination is probably going to be really, really bad here. Yeah, it's pretty bad, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and align to that node. That's going to be in 1 year and 94 days. So that's, going to be exciting. I'm not going to make you sit through that. We will be through this phasing orbit, through the turn, by the time we come back. See you guys in just a moment. Okay, so here we are about 30 seconds away from this burn starting up. We are aligned and we are ready to go. So as we can see, this is going to be about 60 kilometers. We might want to tune that in a little bit. We'll see what that ends up feeling like. For now, let's warp forward just a teeny tiny bit, and then 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. So this burn is going to be a pretty lengthy one. I'm going to turn down the gimbal limit on this engine. I don't want it wiggling quite that much, and we are just going to physics warp this for a bit. But we need to keep an eye on the amount of fuel in these tanks, right? So the next staging event will jettison these 2 tanks, which will be empty in the course of this burn. We've still got a lot of fuel in this thing, no doubt about that, and we're going to use some of it anyway. So let's just push this on forward. That'll be absolutely great. We just need to build up a little bit more speed here. 500 meters per second to go. Keeping an eye on that fuel in those side tanks. They are, of course, going to be jettisoned shortly. Just want to make absolutely sure that it's the correct 2 tanks that are going to be jettisoned, and it is. So that looks fine. And that fuel is going to be gone shortly. Let's exit physics warp here. There we go. It's interesting how this total amount of fuel is counting all of the fuel in all of these side tanks and the center tank. But this is correct here. We've only got 10 more meters per second in those side tanks. Okay, so they're dry. Let's get rid of them. We don't need to carry those anymore. So now we've got these tanks that we're draining from. And that's fine. We've got lots and lots of fuel left there too. As you can see, this is going to be a nice long burn time. 475 more seconds. Okay, well, we're going to only burn about 50 of those for right now. But we're going to have to do a braking burn when we get there. We're going to have to do an inclination change. We're going to have to do a deorbiting burn. And that's going to be a chunk of DV. I don't think it's going to be quite this much DV, though. Why is this not showing any DV up here? Is our sky crane not receiving fuel? It should be. We shouldn't have changed any fuel flow there. I don't know why we're not seeing DV up here. That's interesting. At any rate, we've only got about 15 seconds left in this burn. So let's keep an eye on our encounter here. Where are we at? 5 seconds left. 2, 1. Okay. We'll bring this in much more cautiously. I see the node drifting on us. So let's see here. Are we coming in prograde here? Yeah, this would be retrograde. So what we want to do is we don't actually want to go to this position. I want to bring this over. Okay, now I'm going to thrust limit us. Down to 0.5% of thrust. And we just want to bring this down to about 51, 52 kilometers, somewhere around there. The inclination is going to be awkward, no doubt about that, but that's okay. So that's about 80 kilometers, 70, 60, and we'll call this good. Okay. Let's warp, and we're going to see if that changes. It only changed to 51,238. I like it. So now let's warp a little further. Let's use auto warp to about here. That's 27 days. Do we need to adjust this? 54? I'm okay with 54. We can work with that. We'll probably dial that back a little bit once we get there, but this is okay. So that seems fine, and let's go ahead and auto warp to about here. Okay, now it changed to 84. That's not ideal. Let's take this to orbital retrograde. And let's see about dialing that back a little bit. We're having significant changes from warping here, and that's definitely not how this is supposed to work. So let's just flip this around real quick. Yeah, this would still be acceptable, to be clear. We'd just do changes here. We could do it that way, but we're already most of the way through this flip, so let's get this done. And then we're just going to dial this in a little bit. Or actually, do we need to go prograde? We might need to go prograde here. Yeah, we need to go prograde. If we were to burn here, this would be right nearby. Okay, so we'll just bring this in here. It'll be fine, even if we have a slightly higher orbit than expected. I'm not terribly concerned about it. We can lower that orbit once we arrive. So that seems okay. We'll align to this node. And hopefully it doesn't change a huge amount on us again when we warp. It really does seem to be when the maneuver is changing into a different SOI that we have issues with that. So that's definitely something to note. Let's see what happens if we hit this auto warp button. That is going to be 285 days, so we'll have time to react. Oh, that barely changed at all. So this seems absolutely okay then, and we will be back once this warp is close to being over. Okay, so here we are just about to Duna, and I'm actually canceling the auto warp here. And the reason why I wanted to cancel the auto warp is because I want to adjust this burn a little bit. But I want to warp us into the SOI before I do that, and I'm going to manually warp that. So let's just bring this up to, say, 10,000x for right now. Okay. Little bit closer here. Okay. Now we're changing SOI. And let's bring that warp down to 0. Now from here, we shouldn't have significant problems with that, in theory. So let's bring this periapsis down. That's a little too low. Let's set it right at about 51. That'll do. So that looks good, and let's warp on forward to this. Excellent. And you can see we're going prograde with Ike, so that looks great. Why did it bring us out? Oh, 1 day, 2 hour burn time. We're thrust limited. We need to unthrust limit this engine. That'll help a lot. Now this is going to be a 2-minute, 28-second burn. That's more like it. I wouldn't want to sit here for... How long would that be in real time with physics warp for a 1-day burn? A day in Kerbal is 6 hours, I believe. So what's 6 divided by 4? That would be a lot of hours. Hang on. Calculator. 6 divided by 4. 1.5. I should have been able to do that in my mind, but I'm apparently lazy right now. So that would have been 1.5 hours of burn time at 4x physics warp. That's kind of insane. Luckily, we're actually going to have 2.5 minutes. So that's much, much better. And that's not even at physics warp. So let's get ourselves into position here. 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. And let's get ourselves into this orbit. Now, once we get to the periapsis here, we're going to want to dip our apoapsis back down, because that went up on us. So that's absolutely fine. And as we can see, our amount of fuel here is still very, 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 very solid. We have large amounts of fuel. Too much fuel, to be honest. We have plenty of fuel. So that's always a good thing. Having too much fuel is way better than having not enough fuel. Although I'm still wondering why we're not seeing any Delta V out of our sky crane. Maybe it's because of the way this is attached together. It is slightly odd. I'll give it that. Okay, so we're now technically in orbit here-ish. Yeah, we're in orbit. We just have an Ike encounter. We don't want to have that, of course. And we'll just continue to slow this right on down. Another 300 meters per second to go on that. So that's looking good. We just want to put our periapsis right at about 51. That's the goal for this burn. So lots and lots of fuel remain. We're going to do an inclination change. We're going to do another orbital adjustment here. There's a number of additional burns that we're going to do, and of course, our overall braking burn is going to be pretty chunky as well. But we're going to be a little overfueled here. There's no doubt about that. So we've got about 20 meters per second left here, and I'm just watching our periapsis. That should be good enough. Yep, looks good. So at the periapsis, I want to add a maneuver here, and this is going to be dropping the apoapsis down and just circularizing this right on up to be about here. That should be fine. Both should be right at about 51, so that'll be 20 more meters per second. We should be turning quite a bit faster now because we have a lot less weight down here. It's reasonably fast. It's not tremendously fast, but it's reasonably fast. We are going to need to do an inclination change. Our inclination is, as you can see, not ideal. So we're definitely going to want to put ourselves into a better inclination. So that'll burn some of this fuel, for sure. Maybe a couple hundred meters per second. And then the overall braking burn is going to be like 800. We're going to have a lot of extra fuel. That's okay. So we're going to park ourselves right about here and warp on forward. So we've got about 10 minutes left on this warp. Looks good. Okay. So really, we don't want to land this thing by the core. We want to land it by the other module because we want to use the controller in the sky crane to link them together. And hopefully they don't have wheels going opposite of each other because that would be awkward. That would be very awkward indeed. Yeah, that would be incredibly awkward. We could flip them, but we'd have to determine that that was what was happening. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, that'll put us into basically the orbit we want to be in. It's good enough. So that'll be fine. Now, well, not quite the orbit we want to be in, because now we want to set Ike as our target and set the inclination here. So we can see we're 11.4 degrees off on the inclination. We could just go for it, but I'm going to say that we're going to play this safe because we have substantially more DV than we need. So we'll do that, and then that resulting apoapsis is going to be pretty high. So that's noted. We're probably going to want to immediately, if we can, pivot into a deceleration burn. That's building us up a fair amount of apoapsis height. The periapsis is going to remain basically exactly the same. But the apoapsis is going to be a bit high, and we'll be right at the periapsis. Are we turning? Yes, we are turning, just very slowly. So it's going to be about 200 meters per second for this inclination change, and then we'll do a braking burn, and then we'll do our landing burn at that point. That's the idea. So that looks good for now. We don't want to come down at nighttime, ideally, because of solar panels. That said, our solar panels will be retracted when we come down. Okay, so we're in position now. We've got about 4 minutes here. So let's warp on forward a little bit. And 50 seconds, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, so we're going to get our inclination fixed, but this is going to raise our apoapsis quite a lot. So we're going to want to hop over to retrograde, but we may have to take another orbit first. We're going to be right at the periapsis. I don't think we can turn in time. We probably want to take an orbit. That's definitely the safer play. So our orbit is changing nicely. We'll be fully inclined here in just a moment. Or fully not inclined, I guess I should say, because we're trying to just be purely equatorial. And we're right on the terminator right now here, so that looks reasonably fine. Okay, 1.2 meters per second? Sure. We'll call that good enough. So that's great, and now we're going to want to hop around to retrograde, but really, we're past the periapsis at this point. Let's just add a maneuver here, and let's drop the apoapsis down to, once again, basically circular. So we'll just do something about like that. That should be fine. We'll go ahead and align to that node. So we've got 1,000 meters per second left in these tanks, and then another 2,000 in this tank. We are very overfueled here. We're going to have to throw some of that away. That's okay. So let's just get ourselves in position for this burn. It's going to be a very, very brief burn indeed. And let's warp on around. We'll have to take an orbit. Okay. So we're now about 1 minute away. I'm going to physics warp because we have drifted off of the node a fair amount. So let's just make our way over to the node. There we go. We've got about 15 seconds until this burn. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So it's drifting on us, but this is good enough. We can see we're within 51 kilometers in both the apoapsis and periapsis. So we're within a kilometer. That's good enough. I'm absolutely content with that. So I'll put this in kill rot, and at this point, we need to start thinking about when we want to come down. Now, of course, right now, we're basically just beyond them. We'll have to take an orbit, but I would want to anyway for the purposes of light. It would be fairly light here, but it would be fine. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to set one of these as our target module. It's this one, the fuel production module. That'll be absolutely great. We're off by 0.4 degrees, but I don't care. This is good enough. So we're going to be heading down, like, I mean, it's going to be like over here, but it'll be in orbit. So, you know, we'll have to do something like this, but it's going to be further along than this, most likely. I don't want this here. Get out of there. It'll be out over here-ish. We'll see. That'll be for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Rornaz, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.